Good day, everyone. We are here to present the biography of the Colombian author Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So I am Dali Lalas, the first presenter for today. So let's proceed to his early years. Gabriel Jose de la Concordia Garcia Marquez, also known as Gabo, was born on March 6, 1927, in the town of Aracataca, Colombia, near the Caribbean coast. He was the eldest of 12 children. His father was a postal clerk, telegraph operator, and itinerant pharmacist. When he was 8, his parents moved away so his father could find a job. Gabriel was left to be raised in a large ramshackle house by his maternal grandparents. His grandfather, Nicolas Marquez Mejia, was a liberal activist and a colonel during Colombia's Thousand Days War. His grandmother believed in magic and filled Gabriel's head with superstitions and folktales, dancing ghosts and spirits, which contribute to his ways of writing. Moving on to his exile from Colombia, so in 1954, Garcia Marquez broke a news story about a sailor who survived the shipwreck of a Colombian Navy destroyer. Although the wreck has been attributed to a storm, the sailor reported that badly stowed illegal contraband from the US came loose and knocked 8 of the crew overboard. The resulting scandal led to Garcia Marquez's exile to Europe, where he continued writing short stories in news and magazine reports.
So thank you, Miss Dolly. Good day. I am Camille Mabaling, and in continuation of early life of Mr. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, let's now proceed to marriage and family. So Garcia Marquez married Mercedes Barcha Pardo in 1958, and they had two children named Rodrigo and Gonzalo. Rodrigo, born in the year of 1959, he is now a television and film director in the US, while Gonzalo was born in Mexico City in 1962, who is now a graphic designer. And that's all with Gabriel Marquez marriage and family life. Let's have now the 100 years of solitude in the 1967. So Garcia Marquez got the idea for his most famous work while he was driving from Mexico to Acapulco. The first Spanish edition sold out in a week, and over the next 30 years, it sold more than 25 million copies and has been translated into more than 30 languages. So the plot is set in Macondo, a town based on his own hometown of Aracataca, and its saga follows five generations of descendants of Jose Arcadio Buendia and his wife Ursula and the city they founded. So this book is so well known, even Oprah has put it on her must-read book list. And that's all for the 100 years of solitude. Let's now have the political activism. With the political activism, Garcia Marquez was an exile from Colombia for most of his adult life, mostly self-imposed. As a result of his anger and frustration over the violence that was taking over his country, he was lifelong socialist and a friend of Fidel Castro's. He wrote for La Prensa in Havana and always maintained personal ties with the Communist Party in Colombia, even though he never joined as a member. And that's all for the early life of Mr. Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
So hello, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Shaina May and Lebasug and I will discuss the writing career. Next slide po. So we will going to discuss the literary styles, themes, and famous stories. Next slide. So for Gabriel Garcia Marquez literary styles, magic realism, it is chiefly Latin American narrative strategy that characterized by the matter-of-fact inclusion or mythical elements into seemingly realistic fiction. He is pioneer in writing styles of magic realism, a literary or artistic genre in which realistic technique are combined with surreal elements of dream or fantasy. Next slide, please. So for Gabriel Garcia Marquez literary themes, he usually write death, greed, solitude, religion, decadence, independence, and imagination. Despite his seemingly pessimistic portrayal of the first six themes, his unifying motif of imagination punctuates them with a comic twist, which underscore the absurdity of the human condition and makes it manageable, even transcendent. To further discuss the literary writings of Garcia Garcia Marquez, may I call Miss Junio.
Thank you, Ms. Labasug. I am Angelica Junio and I will present and discuss some of the famous books of the author Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The first book is 100 Years of Solitude. 100 Years of Solitude on its Spanish language title, Cien Años de Soledad, while on its American Spanish title, Cien Años de Soledad, is a 1967 novel by Colombian author Gabriel Garcia Marquez that tells about the multi-generational story of the Buendia family whose patriarch Jose Arcadio Buendia founded the fictitious town of Macondo. The novel is often cited as one of the supreme achievements in literature. Love in the Time of Cholera. Love in the Time of Cholera on its Spanish language title, El Amor en los Tiempos del Cólera, is a novel written by Columbian Nobel Prize winning author Gabriel Garcia Marquez and was published in 1985. It is a tale that showcases every gripping moment of a tumultuous love story. Chronicle of a Death Foretold. Chronicle of a Death Foretold on its Spanish language title, Crónica de una Muerte Anunciada, is a novel by Gabriel Garcia Marquez published in 1989. It tells, in the form of a pseudo-journalist reconstruction, the story of the murder of Santiago Nazar by the Vicario twins. Of Love and Other Demons. Of Love and Other Demons, on its Spanish language title, Del Amor y Otros Demonios, is a novel by Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez published in 1994. In this framed story, it was only after an excavation of tombs that Garcia Marquez witnessed to the grave of a familiar young girl with a long red hair still attached to the skull, that he was inspired to write Of Love and Other Demons. The General in His Labyrinth. The General in His Labyrinth, on its original Spanish title, El General en su Laberinto, is a 1989 dictator novel by the Colombian writer and Nobel laureate Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It is an historical novel and biographical fiction. Strange Pilgrims. Strange Pilgrims, on its original Spanish language title, Doce Cuentos Peregrinos, is a collection of 12 loosely related short stories by the Nobel Prize winning Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Strange Pilgrims is a collection of unforgettable stories about distinctive South American individuals in Europe. No One Writes to the Colonel. No One Writes to the Colonel, on its Spanish language title, El Coronel No Tiene Quien Le Escriba, is a novel written by the Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It also gives its name a short story collection. Garcia Marquez considered it his best book, saying that he had to write 100 Years of Solitude so that people would read No One Writes to the Colonel. Memories of My Melancholy Wars. Memories of My Melancholy Wars, on its Spanish language title, Memoria de mis putas tristes, is a novel by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This book was originally published in Spain in 2004, with an English translation by Edith Grossman, published in October 2005. It is all about an old journalist who has just celebrated his 90th birthday, seeks sex with a 14-year-old prostitute who is selling her virginity to help her family. But instead of sex, he discovers love for the first time in his life.
Thank you for that, Ms. Cunyo. And I am Lawrence Lapto, and I will be discussing the death and legacy for Gabriel Enriquez. And we all know he is the one who unleashed the worldwide boom in Spanish language literature and magical realism with his novel 100 Years of Solitude. And on April 17, 2014, he died at the age of 87 due to pneumonia in Mexico City. Next slide, please. Gabriel Garcia Marquez was one of the prime exponents of magical realism, a genre he described as embodying myth, magic, and other extraordinary phenomena. And with his books, he brought Latin America's charm and teeming contradictions to life in the minds of millions of people. The 1967 novel, which he wrote, sold more than 30 millions of copies. That's why Marquez was one of the fundamental figure of the so-called boom of Latin American literature, promoting the international discovery of many novelists of the highest level barely known outside their respective countries. He became one of the best-known Latin American writers in history. Next slide. So in 1982, Gabriel Garcia Enriquez was awarded for Nobel Prize in Literature for his novels and short stories in which the fantastic and the realistic are combined in richly composed world of imagination reflecting a continent's life and conflicts. He is one of the foremost interpreters of magical realism in literature, in which the framework narrative is set in real place and time, but supernatural and dreamlike elements are part of the portrayal. The novels El Otoño de Petrarca and El Amor en los Tiempos del Cólera cemented his position as one of the greatest Latin American writers of all times. And that's ends for our presentation. Thank you for listening. This is Lawrence Labdo again.